Yeah. I'm to be honest with you. Okay, so are we ready to begin this May 28th um meeting of the HRC?
We have four of us at least, right?
Yep, we're ready.
All right.
So Kim, do you want to do roll call first?
I can do that. Commissioner Nidegger,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Schulte, maybe she'll sign back in. Commissioner Dean,
Here.
Commissioner Cummings, RSVP that she would not be in attendance, and Commissioner Soriano. All right, we have four. We have quorum. You may go ahead.
Excellent. So first is, do we have any business from the public? Okay. Next would be the approval of the minutes from April 23rd's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I motion that we approve the April 23rd meeting minutes as written.
Okay. Do we have somebody who would second that motion?
I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Edie?
I have
We're just
sound again. Okay, so what did you do? Yay!
we're just approving the April 23rd minutes. So there's been a motion to approve, a seconding, and so we're all saying, do you approve the minutes? Everyone say aye who does approve those minutes. Great. Okay. Next up is the joint meeting with City Council. Kim, you have an update for us, right?
Yes. So thank you all for your flexibility. I'm excited that we have so much time tonight to kind of talk about this and lay out an agenda. Our new date is Monday, July 22nd. So that will be at 4 o'clock. We have from 4 until 5 that it is just us and council.
July 22nd. 22nd?
Yes.
Okay. You just blipped out right
Oh, sorry.
exactly when the number came about.
And I can send out a calendar invite as well.
Awesome.
That would be super helpful.
You said 4 to what?
4 to 5.
So I think it makes a lot of sense to try to take some of this time to come up with priorities that we want to discuss with them when we meet with them. I know one thing that we had talked about in a previous meeting was I think a little bit of clarifying how they see our role. And Kim, I have to ask, when the council meets, does the mayor also meet? Okay. So maybe clarifying a little bit about how they see our role, or in kind of our responsibility within, I think coming back to the conversation that we had around bias resources, and Alyssa, thank you for bringing that to the last conversation. In some of the earlier reports that we had from community members who were concerned or who had, some really discriminatory incidents happen and reached out to Miriam. We want to make sure that we're clear, because I know that the mayor referred people back to this commission. And so I think we do need to really clarify with our limited ability to make kind of policy decisions, right? What they understand the role of the HRC is to be. So that would be one thing that I think is really critical, so that it will give us some better direction on what is realistic in our purview.
So is
Are
that
you look-
basically asking, in a situation like that last one, what's the scope of what we want to do? Should we just take it and respond to it and say, here are the resources? Or did they want us to gather the information, bring it back to them and then say, what do you want us to do with it? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that last question, Heidi, is the question. What do you want us to do with this, right? We can provide the, the resources that Alyssa brought, provide that, have that hotline number, the bias incident report hotline number. But in terms of what we can do in shaping city policy and action, what is realistic, right?
And are you looking, Allison, for feedback from the council specifically around the bias incident and the bias response mechanisms? Yes, but are you also looking for a wider feedback from the council on our role outside of our charter or beyond our charter, or if it fits, that sort of thing? So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's I just bring up that because I think it's a very concrete example that we can use to have this conversation. But I think about last year that there was a little bit of this a little bit of kind of a struggle in kind of identifying more, what really should be our priorities, right? And I think having a clearer understanding of the council's view of this commission, as well as a conversation about like, what do you feel are the priorities this commission should center, I think is a really important one for directing our work and our initiatives.
I think that will be good feedback from the council to get, particularly because the council has changed significantly from the time that we established the charter. Well, from the time that we reestablished the commission after a significant period of absence, and then created and voted on the charter. But I think it also is good to be prepared to give them feedback as to what we in the group see our role is, and what sort of some of the obstacles for us in doing those things, and even where there may be disagreement amongst us that highlight, we're 80% on these things, but there's some disagreement on the 20 or 30% over here, sort of thing. So, because the charter to me makes a pretty good case for what this should be about. It's just implementing, in a citizen advisory council and with a limited no budget. How do you do those things? So. Sorry, I've got a railroad running through my backyard.
Yeah, I can.
And I say with that, this time next year, we're going to be passing our next biennial budget. And so I think this would be the time, if this group is interested in asking for any financial resources, this would be the time to plant those seeds. I do know budgets they're tough everywhere for everybody. So I think being realistic about the amount that this group would be interested in and very specific as to, if we get this is what we are going to do with those funds. I think this would be your opportunity to tee that up and ask that question.
It's good intel. Robin, to your point about kind of some of the ideas that we might each have that in terms of what it means to be on this commission. And, I think just looking at the remainder of the agenda, I do think we have some time to explore that a little bit. So I want to open it up for that discussion. You know, what do we, what are we each bringing to this in terms of what we feel this commission should do, and also those obstacles that we can identify to doing some of this work.
I'd be happy to start.
Yeah.
So I've been on record since I've been, now this is my second term, towards the end of my second term, several times as talking about this citizen advisory group being one of the few that inputs on a broad sense to the community. All the other ones are very specific to maybe community development or parks, or the other commissions that exist. Art is a good example. Very important citizen, but their scope is fairly narrow. This is a broad scope sort of commission, and it has to do with people's lives and where they see themselves in the community and that sort of thing. I've always felt that this commission should look at the situations that are happening in our society and ask our lowest level of elected officials where they stand on those things. So that can include things like local issues that affect democracy, school board issues. Even though they're not school board members, they are community leaders who should be able to comment and give their position on that. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to see this commission do more of. We certainly have done some of that. There's no doubt about it. But gosh, I would be happy if there was a resolution coming out of this group every single time we met, for addressing broad issues in our culture, and having our public officials at this level go on record as to whether where they stand on those particular issues. That's it.
That's helpful. Robin, I want to encourage you that, as a member of this commission, if there are some of those resolutions that are rising to the top for you, to make sure that we're making room to discuss them on the agenda, because if we're not discussing them, that nothing's going to get any kind of movement.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else want to bring up what they feel the role of this commission is, how you see your role?
I would really be interested in us putting ourselves out into the community a little more, because I do feel that we're, at least my understanding of this group is as an advocacy group, and it's hard to advocate for people if they don't know that we exist and if they don't know what resources are available. And I was thinking about what could we use those funds for if we did look at budgeting, and I think getting us a setup for tabling. I don't know. I know that they've tabled in the past, but I don't know if we have a quick shade and a table and a sign that says who we are or anything like that. So basics like that, or even I've seen those campaigns that are you belong, in the community. And especially with the conversation that we've had previously, I could really see us getting behind something like that. One, to help share with the community that we're here as a resource, but also to put out that message that Albany is oftentimes more than just what you see on the surface, and there are people here that want to help and support and diversify. And those are some things that I think, one, tabling, and then also, can we start a campaign of some sort? And I really don't know what our power looks like, because I know that there are local businesses that might help support some of those goals. But since we are a government organization, I'm not sure what our, requests can look like.
Going back to the tabling part, Kim, you can confirm we have a sign and that's it, right?
We have a table runner.
Oh, excuse me.
I know, very exciting. In the past, we have had a sign that we're able to put out on an A-frame. I'll have to go back and look to see if it has lived for multiple years, and what condition it is in. And at that point, that is about all we have. In the past, we've had commission members, the couple times that they did, the 2 or 3 times they did farmers market, had their own pop-up and tables and all that kind of good stuff. And so mobilized that way.
And one of them, we had a whiteboard where the citizens could write messages to us or ideas on the pad of, on that, I don't know, what do you call it? Those big things that hold pads, pad board. That was, I thought, really interesting. People seem to be kind of attracted to doing that.
I'm not terribly technical, but could we come up with something like that where we also have a QR code that basically leads people to a tell us what you want us to know kind of a thing that we could stick on our table so you can write it down if you are like me and you'd rather write down, or you can take the picture and do it if you would rather do it that way?
I
We
think- Go ahead.
we have tools for community surveying as well. So we could very easy, well, I say very easily, we have the tools to be able to identify questions as a group or as a subgroup and be able to give them to Matt, and Matt would be able to create a fillable form that would gather all that information. That is very much resources that we have at our disposal.
I assume it could be a form that is just ongoing. In other words, it just is a box to collect information from those types of things. Yeah. Cool. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think, I keep coming back to that point. Like getting out into the community is really important. Getting that community feedback is really important. What do we do with that, right? Like, what do we have the power to do with that? And so I like that. And I think, like, when we talk with city council and have some of those conversations about, what is the kind of like what falls within our purview, what agency do we have, bringing that up as an idea that we have, right, to be able to go out into the community, solicit feedback about, equity and justice in the community. And how are we going to make sure that doesn't just reside in a form, right? Because we want to make sure that people, if we're asking people to submit that kind of information, we need to be prepared to actually do something.
Well, and I would think the doing is if we create something and say, we're asking for your input, maybe we just establish ourselves a nice little process that says, here's what we're gonna do with that input. We're gonna collect it for 3 months. And every 3 months, we're gonna assimilate all the information and go, here's what everybody has said to us. And then we're going to put that in summary form and give it to the city council and say, here are the things that our people are telling us. And that way we've got an actionable, we're just giving them a little piece of information 4 times a year. And then we can decide how to further follow up from that. But maybe that's a first starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, especially since in our description of what this committee does, it specifically says that we, share that information with city council. We help direct, or not correct, but guide and support them with some of those decisions and that information. So I really like that idea.
Yeah, that's great.
I think it would make it ongoing and quantifiable as well, so that we could, have a process for looking at these issues. Like a quick example, over the last maybe year or so, there's been a couple, maybe 3 people that I've spoken with who have raised the issue of really noisy vehicles in the community. And I think that's something that all of modern, Oregon deals with, and probably everywhere. And that, they're asking, do the police enforce noise ordinances on vehicles? And I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But I know they just put up speed cameras, so I know they're interested in enforcing speed. That's for sure. So, those types of things, and then we could take them quantifiably out to the various community leaders and get feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. Like, that coming up with that process. That's kind of one of the things that I feel like we need to be able to state to them, like, well, we want to know what they need from us. We also have to say what we need from them in this meeting. And so something like that, Heidi, and saying, we're going to collect this information. We're going to collate it for you, and we will present this quarterly. And we also need to know that with that, the information won't just fall by the wayside, because people may be reporting some really challenging things about our community. And as elected officials, I mean, we're not elected, but we're here to represent people from our wards, right? And represent people who have who have concerns about equity, inclusion, and injustices here in the community. And so for us to be able to like live out our responsibility, we need the city council to also, share that responsibility.
Great. Maybe the example I just gave would be more appropriate for the police commission, but that's one.
Believe me, my dog is with you, Robin. Like, my dog at 2 a.m. with somebody's like souped up engine.
Like the ones that sound as though they're shooting.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Absolutely.
Or you're not sure if they're driving down your street or in through your wall.
Anyone else want to? Yeah, Kim.
I know I'm not a commissioner, but I would love to add something to the list. I think it would be great if we got some concrete feedback from this group about a possible land acknowledgement or just connection with the Indigenous community. I feel like we're hitting a little bit of a roadblock, because our next step would be to literally go with like hat in hand to say, hi, we're interested in building these relationships, but this group is not necessarily, we're the conduit, but we don't necessarily have the muscle behind it. And so figuring out what this council wants to do with that, or if they like the idea. And if they do, is it a notice before meetings? Is it a plaque in the building? Is it a monument? Is it, dedicated space and time? I would really love to get some clarification. So if we can put land acknowledgement and Indigenous community partnerships. No, yeah. Partnership's the wrong word, because we need to reach out. Just engagement, I think, would be really helpful.
I think engagement would be great. I think I would like to consider an even further use of that. And, counties and cities are giving back land to Indigenous tribes all the time now. Happened up in Willamette Falls, happened down in California. It's happening all over. And would be an opportunity for instance, city and county government to potentially give back a small amount of land, at least as an acknowledgement to the wrongs that were done here to those people. So, yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Is this the space for us to ask if we can reach out to tribes first? Because here's the deal, I have to tell you, I somewhere in my history probably have some native blood, but very obviously not in recent history. So I wouldn't want to come across as coming up with a great idea for a tribe that I would want to reach out to all of the tribes and say, we're looking at doing this. How would you like us to do that?
Mhm.
And get an answer from several different people before we go further into doing things. Because we may be going, hey, we want to do a thing and we want to write a blurb. And they may say, what we really want you to do is this. And so I want to make sure that we connect with the spirit of doing the appropriate thing, but also giving the appropriate result.
Absolutely. Kim, forgive me if I'm wrong, but was there contact made with Grand Ron?
Sent emails and have not received any return contact.
Okay. I will put that in my list.
I may
for-
have a contact. I will reach out to them and I will see if they can get us in contact with somebody. So I have a friend who is very closely related, or who's very from the tribes, and works very closely with a lot of individuals who work with the Grand Ron specifically. And I'll see if they can get me in touch with some folks from the tribe who might be able to help direct us.
I will do the same. I know the person who's the tribal relations director at OSU. So he probably has a good contact there.
And if we could come up with some contacts to start, I would be happy to make some phone calls and just say, hi, this is me. This is what we're working on. And I can follow down the path of eventually getting us to a right person.
Mhm. Absolutely. Anything else we feel like we want to put on that agenda? We still have time. So let's put that as a to be continued. So over the next month, we'll think more about that. I want to just kind of tag team with something that you said, Alyssa, about being out in the community more. I do think that something that we could do, and I believe I brought it up at a meeting, but it might have been a while ago. That there are two groups in the community that I think it would be important if we can have regular HRC representation at, so that we can hear directly from community members. So the NAACP, which covers Lynn and Benton County, and then the HAC, which is which is the Hispanic Advisory Committee, that also does a lot of organizing of the Latina communities in Lynn and Benton County. Those are two organizations that have a monthly meeting. So if we can, if we can kind of create a calendar of this is who's going to attend this meeting, in this month, and then make that a regular part of our agenda, reporting back from those meetings, I think that would be a really great way for us to ensure we're doing some of that engagement in the community. Yes, it's important to be able to talk one-on-one with people out in public spaces, but those are work groups that are trying to do some of these larger efforts where we could be able to support and push some advocacy from the city level. So Kim, I know that the Hispanic Advisory Committee, they meet the last Tuesday of every month. So they met today from 3 to 5. And the NAACP, I believe, is on Wednesdays, but I can't remember which Wednesday in the month it is. And those are evening meetings. So typically 6 or 6:30 to 8.
Second Thursday of every month.
Oh, second Thursday. Okay. So I don't know if this is an appropriate ask of you, Kim, but if you're able to like create a sign up for us so that I can do it too.
Sure. Do we want it? I guess my question is, do you want it to be the same person reporting and attending the meeting every month so the relationship is able to be built, with one
Hmm.
commission member? Or are you thinking that it would be a rotation kind of through whoever would have the date free?
I mean, ideally, it would be somebody consistent, at least for a cycle, right? Like, so maybe we say for 3 meetings, and then there's kind of a handoff, right? Um, just so that there's a little bit of continuity.
Sure. What I can do is tomorrow I can type out all these, I guess, for between now and January 1st, and send out an email. And if folks just want to reply back to me directly to say I want to take this spot, I can get a master list going.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Yeah, Kim.
Sorry, I apologize. I figure this is also the time to report back. As a couple of meetings ago, 2 meetings ago, we talked about how we could better use our website, and put a QR code on there, put the bias response on there, see if we could get business cards that have the QR code. So if you run into people, an email address, a general email address, and this opened up all sorts of good questions with the city manager's office, as they're like, oh, this is good. I imagine if one group wants it, probably all groups will need it in some capacity too. And that if we're going to improve, let's improve across the board. And so it's brought some larger conversations about how do we process this and all that kind of good stuff. So I don't want you to think that that has been put on the back burner. It's kind of spurred a larger conversation as to, is there a toolkit that each commission gets, full of like resources available to help interact, but we want to make sure that we're doing it equitably across all the groups. And so just trying to figure out that bandwidth. So stay tuned, but that information has been passed up the line and is currently being considered.
Awesome. It's good to know. So next on the agenda, are we ready to move on? Anyone, any last thoughts? Okay. Next on the agenda is the Human Rights Commission conversation across Oregon cities.
So that one's me again. So it had kind of gone quiet for a little bit. So we sent out an email saying, hey, just want to check in. We love this idea. Want to see if any dates have been put on the calendar. Salem, who is kind of spearheading it, said that they had a big project come down from their mayor that's taken a little bit more time. And so they're a little bit, they haven't moved as fast as they would want to, but the eagerness from HRCs across the state is there. And so they're going to look to put together an initial Zoom meeting for chairs and liaisons to kind of talk a little bit about what this group could look like, meeting format, frequency, information share. So we're waiting to see when that possible date is up there. But it sounds like a lot of folks are also interested. So hopefully good things to come.
That's great. And I think it'll also, as we are kind of thinking about some of the directions we want to go, hopefully that alliance across the state can be helpful in thinking about how we can in solidarity do something a lot bigger. Okay, in-person meetings. So it looks like from last meeting, folks had identified October and March as being the most likely time for in-person meetings. I don't know if there wasn't voting, it didn't look like from the last meeting. So I think this is the time to take a vote. To make a decision here. So I want to open it. If anyone has any other month that they feel like we should replace October or March with, thoughts, feelings.
I move we adopt a in-person meeting for October and March for the HRC Commission.
Can we get somebody to second that motion?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, let's do this. So Kim, in terms of logistics, good to go. So 6 o'clock on October, the last Tuesday on October and March.
We'll find a room. It'll be good.
Excellent. Look forward to it. And then the event debriefs and potential event involvement. I know, Keedy, it looks like from last meeting you had called up this, hey, can we just do upcoming events? Is that right?
Yeah, I was just double checking because every time I go to print out things, I go 8 pages. Oh my gosh. And I print it all and then I go, oh, remember, I don't need it because a lot of that is old. So that was more of a housekeeping piece for me. Is it something we need? Is it something we don't? There we go.
Yeah, I mean, how do folks feel about having the entire year versus just kind of whittling it down to what's upcoming?
I think it might be nice to have, it wouldn't change anything for printing purposes, but to have like a verified, like this is the date that this is going to happen versus this is when it happened last year and we expect it to be, coming up. Because I know there's a lot of things that we looked at that were on the calendar from last year that didn't happen this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think tightening up that list might aid us a bit because there was 2 instances where I attempted to attend events or whatever, and there was one was the police one where there was a mix-up there between whether they were accepting any additional folks on that advisory group, I guess. Once Keith had left. And then the other one was the LBCC. I want to say it was like an equity and inclusion sort of day or something. And I remember I looked on the calendar for LBCC and I didn't see anything on there. And I want to say this was in like February or March. And I went out and then I did get a date from like our group, and then I went out there and I couldn't find it. So yeah, I think it would behoove us to tighten that up a bit.
On the administrative side, it's kind of hard. There are a lot of moving pieces. And so what I would potentially recommend is that maybe we do like the upcoming next 2 months, because those are ones that probably will have a firmer grasp on what is coming up and what is real and actual, and we'll just kind of keep rotating that through. Hopefully it's okay. It's a little bit of hybrid of both. We can still put this kind of in our archive and maybe post it once a year as a, hey, FYI, this is what we think it is. But when you actually take a look at the dates, a lot of it is farmers market and internal programs that we don't necessarily anticipate having a booth at or a presence at, and that I don't necessarily know if we would have representation as the HRC at, if that makes sense. So maybe definitely tightening it so it's events that we would be having representation go as a commission member or tabling as a commission member, as opposed to just a wide swath of events.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then also add, of course, what Allison was saying, what the chair was saying about the hack and NAACP is ongoing.
Yeah, which speaking of, I just want to say that the next NAACP meeting is June 13th. Thank you, calendar. And so I would just say like we'll want to, because we meet at the very end of the month, we'll want to try to secure folks who will take kind of the first rotation for both the NAACP and the HAC meetings. I would say within this next week. So Kim, if you're able to kind of set out those that calendar and get that to our commission, then we can hopefully move on actually securing folks who will take on that first, let's say, a 3-month rotation.
And if it's okay, I'll also send out, as far as the sign up with that, the city does have a table for Pride on the 22nd of June. And so we have some volunteer shifts available. We'll have staff there. We're trying to do a mix of staff and volunteer, or open it up to commission members who are interested. I know the Arts Commission is also going to have a booth there. So I'll send that out. And if anybody's interested, they're like 2-hour shifts, 3-hour shifts. I'll have to go back and look, but add your name to the list and I'll happily get you logged in.
Awesome. Any other thoughts about calendar before we move on?
One quick question for Kim. Is the city, any of the city commissions or the city itself have any sort of like tables at the summer programs? Like, I know it's fun, but is there any business sort of that happens out there at those things as well?
So as far as our concert series, we have a department booth, and then the foundation has one there. We don't necessarily have any large scale city booth there. It's mostly sponsors and folks who have paid to have who've paid to have an engagement spot. It could definitely be something that we look at and figure out what we would need to do. We would just need to have a pretty drilled down, this is what we're going to be doing, this is what we're going to be handing out, all that kind of good stuff before we went in. We find that at those events, folks are there for the experience and stuff and less about information exchange.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There for Smash Mouth and Debbie Gibson. Awesome. Okay, business from members. Any business that people want to bring to the table that we've not discussed?
I had wanted to talk about speeding in town in general. Sorry, my toddler's about to bust in here. And then I thought Stephanie had posted like a recap of the city council meeting, and my neighbor was actually at the city council meeting talking about our street. And my experience, I have kids at North Albany Elementary. It's not safe to drive the speed limit on my street or in the school zone. I've had people follow me all the way to the highway, waving their arms and making some really nice gestures at me. I'm sure there were some nice words to accompany those, because I went 20 miles an hour in the school zone in front of my kid's school during the school day. And so, my neighbor was specifically talking about our street, which is also bad. And I've actually had the police come out because I almost got rear-ended pulling into my driveway in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. When they have the trailer out that monitors the speed. I've watched people from my house, watched people speed up to see how fast they can go. And it's scary. I have 3 small children. We live in a residential street and people are going 45, 50 miles an hour regularly. This is not an uncommon thing. And the police officer, the biggest problem I have with it is the police officer that did come out said, I won't even pull someone over until they're going like 38 miles an hour. I won't give them a ticket until then. And it was like, are you kidding me? They have to be going almost over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit in a residential zone before you'll even pull them over. And it just seemed, I don't know what the answer is, but it's not safe. And it's really frustrating to have people flying by and throwing their, you want your socks off. throwing their garbage out the window at my house as I'm standing there in the driveway going, come on, guys, slow down. Like, I just want to go get my mail without getting run over. So I didn't get to listen to enough of the city council meeting. Supposedly there was something that they talked about after my neighbor spoke, and I didn't get to that part. So I don't know if anyone else saw that and can weigh in on that. But just all the other school zones that I drive through, I've had the same experience where people are so close to the back of my car that I can't see the hood of their vehicle out my back window. Because I'm going 20 miles an hour.
So since that sort of fits with the speed thing, I wonder the speed and the noise thing, because the Venn diagram of who speeds and who creates noise is probably two concentric circles.
They overlap
so,
like this.
I mean, they're really close, anyways.
Yeah.
I wonder if is that an appropriate thing for a commission like this to take to the other commission, the police commission, or is that something that we could take to the other, or to the council directly? I guess how would that work?
I think, there are two relevant citizen advisory commissions for that. One would be the Transportation Advisory Commission as well as the Public Safety Commission. Jamie, like, I would encourage you to reach out to them. I think they're going to have a little bit more leverage in these conversations. It is about the safety of our community. But I think that is really relevant to what those two groups are focused on. I don't know, Kim, is there one that you think is kind of like a better place to direct?
I think
that
in all
concern?
honesty, both would be good. And I think it would be more impactful coming from that, you as a citizen. I apologize. You as a citizen going to that group and saying, hey, I'm involved. I'm on the HRC. This is something that I'm seeing. I want to give you my business from the public, as we know how often or how infrequently that happens, and that does carry weight. Then they're able to go back to council and say, hey, based on this is the feedback we've received from our constituents and our community. So I think that would it would be a little bit more diluted coming from us. But if you send it to
Right.
one of those folks, it'll come with more of the weight that it needs.
Yeah. Any
Jamie, if you would like to coordinate as two citizens to take that feedback that we've received, both your personal feedback and the feedback that I've received from two or three others, and do that as business from the public, just let me know. I'd be happy to help.
Yeah. And the part that scares me is some people are a little, I don't know. My neighbor's a little bit of a wild card, and he made a comment in the city council meeting that was like, if you're not gonna fix it, I will. And I was like, oh gosh. What is he proposing?
Well, yeah, let us know what happens, what comes of that.
Yeah.
Any other business from members?
Well, I did have one thing, and I wasn't sure exactly, or I'm not sure exactly what types of events that we would like to table at. But I do have an opportunity for us if there is interest. This wouldn't be until September. But there is a local nonprofit that is looking to put on a mushroom festival similar to the ones in like Yachats or Eugene that celebrate foraging and eating culinary mushrooms and just general whimsy and cottagecore. And I am very good friends with the individual who is putting it on, because he is my husband. And I was like, hey, if the HRC would like to table at this event, is that something that we would allow? And he said, yes, we could have a table, free of charge, all of that. So I don't know if that is a conflict of interest, but we would have a booth there if there is interest from the team on that.
When is that event again?
September 22nd, and they're trying to decide currently between Monteith and Timberland Park.
I'd certainly have an interest in that. Yep.
Yeah, I think
And I can definitely, oh, sorry.
I think if you know, if somebody's willing to staff it, and we know what we want to have there, you know, for people to engage with, I don't see any, you know, it's getting out into the community, right, in some form or fashion. Right?
Yeah.
I can definitely provide more information as it develops a little more. And again, it'll be the first annual one, so I'm not sure of the size, but at least we'll, you know, have an opportunity to sit in a park and, you know, share what we're doing with people.
Have some chanterelles while you're at it. No. Any other business from members? Kim, staff updates?
All right. So I'll work on some follow-up emails. So you'll be getting something from me by end of the day on Thursday. Lots of signups. So yeah, just send them back to me instead of replying. I'll plug it in and I'll just keep folks updated in that capacity. And then the only other thing is that the Arts Commission, the group decided that they wanted to have a show in June that focused on LGBTQ artists, local artists from Oregon. And so it'll be installed, and they're having, that group has actually written a grant from the Lynn County Cultural Coalition, got about $1,400 to do First Friday receptions. So our third one, I think, is coming up next Friday from 5 until 6:30. So light refreshments, light music. Many of the artists hopefully will be there. So just wanted to spread the word and come on out.
Very cool. Love
That's
it.
great.
Kim, is there a place, like if folks want to learn a little bit more about that, a resource where they can go to, you know, just to learn about those Friday?
Sure. There's a poster that will be on the website and going out with like a social media invite. Hopefully, I think it's getting approved this week. Well, clearly it's next week. There should be something on Facebook by the end of the week. So yeah, feel free to distribute that way. That's
And
kind of
when you
how
say
it's
on the
working.
website, are you just talking about the general city website?
City website,
Yeah.
it'll be on the event calendar. And then if you go to commissions under Arts Commission, it'll have information on it.
Great. Awesome. I think that brings us to the end. And so we will meet again on the 25th, Tuesday, the 25th. We have a few opportunities to get out in the community between attending NAACP, Hispanic Advisory Committee, as well as tabling at Albany Pride. So we'll look for emails from Kim, our amazing coordinator of all these details. And with that, does anyone motion to adjourn this meeting?
Well, I do motion that we adjourn this meeting. Oh, I'll give Jamie the first, and I'll do the second.
Oh, I was actually going to say, can I just put it in there now that I will not be at the next meeting? Hi. That way I don't forget.
Thanks for letting us know.
I'm saying hi.
So did you second that, Jamie? The motion?
I will second that motion.
Okay. All right. Thanks, y'all. It was good to see everyone, and we'll gather again at the end of June.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye.